The cafeteria was loud, full of laughing students and the smell of pizza and fries in the air. The chatter was almost like music, but it had a sharp edge, the kind that could make someone feel invisible if they were new. Today, it would feel different because today, someone new was walking in. Maya stepped through the cafeteria doors, her backpack hanging on one shoulder, her eyes scanning the room. She was the new girl at Jefferson High, and she knew everyone was staring. She could feel it, the curious glances, the whispers that quickly stopped when she looked their way. But Maya didn't mind. She had faced challenges before, and this was just another day. Her shoes made soft tapping sounds on the linoleum floor as she walked carefully toward an empty table. She noticed Jake first, the boy who everyone called the king of this cafeteria. He was tall, with a cocky grin and a group of friends who laughed at everything he said. Jake had a reputation. He picked on anyone who looked different, anyone who seemed weaker, anyone who dared to stand out. Jake's eyes landed on Maya. He smirked and nudged one of his friends. "Look, guys," he whispered loud enough for some to hear. "The new girl thinks she can just walk in here and act like she owns the place." His laugh was sharp like glass breaking. The friends laughed too, the kind of laugh that made the room feel colder, even in the bright cafeteria. Maya didn't look nervous. Her shoulders stayed straight, and her eyes didn't flicker. She had a calmness that could confuse anyone who tried to scare her. She set her tray down on a table far from Jake, but still within sight. The tray had a sandwich, some chips, and an apple, nothing fancy. But it didn't matter. She wasn't here for the food. Some students looked at her and whispered, "Wow, she's so calm. Does she know what she's getting into?" Others thought she looked too quiet, maybe even scared. But Maya wasn't scared. She could sense the tension, like a storm waiting to hit. And she knew storms could be dangerous, but also powerful. Jake stood up, stretching his arms as if he was warming up for a fight. He walked toward her slowly, taking his time so everyone could see. He leaned on the edge of a nearby table and smiled that same sharp smile. "Hey, new girl," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "You lost or something? This isn't really your place." Maya looked at him directly. Her eyes were steady, almost piercing. She didn't say anything. She just nodded politely, as if acknowledging a stranger at a party. But inside, she was thinking fast, planning her next move. Every bully had a weakness. Every challenge had a way to be handled. And Maya was not going to let this bully ruin her first day. The cafeteria went quiet for a moment. Students paused mid-bite or mid-laugh, sensing something was about to happen. Even Jake's friends started looking a little nervous, unsure of what this new girl might do. Maya's silence was louder than words. Jake took another step closer, his shadow falling across her table. He leaned down slightly. "You don't belong here," he said. The words were heavy, meant to scare. Some students started whispering again, "Oh, he's going to make her cry." But Maya didn't flinch. She simply put her hands on her lap and smiled, just a little, the kind of smile that didn't mock, didn't fear, but hinted that she wasn't weak. Jake raised an eyebrow. He had never met anyone like this. Usually his targets stumbled, looked away, or got angry. But Maya was calm, collected, even strong in a quiet way. It made him pause, and for a second, the cocky grin faded. Maya finally spoke, softly but clearly. "I just want to eat my lunch," she said. Her voice wasn't scared. It wasn't nervous. It was simple, direct, and confident. Jake's friends snickered nervously, not sure if they should laugh or step back. Jake, however, leaned back and laughed, a little louder this time, trying to hide his confusion. "We'll see about that," he muttered, mostly to himself. Maya picked up her sandwich slowly, taking a bite, eyes still on the room. She didn't rush. She didn't hide. And that quiet confidence made everyone notice. Whispers spread across the cafeteria. Who is she? Why is she so calm? For the first time, Jake felt a little uncertainty. Something about Maya was different. She wasn't scared. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just herself. And sometimes, being yourself is the hardest thing for a bully to face. As Maya chewed her lunch, she could feel the eyes on her, the tension in the air. But she didn't mind. Today, she had arrived, and nothing, not the whispers, not the stares, not even Jake, was going to stop her from being herself. And in that moment, the students didn't know it yet, but Maya had already started changing the rules of the cafeteria. The bell rang, and the cafeteria seemed louder than ever. Students were eating, laughing, and sharing stories, but the tension in the air was different now. Everyone who had noticed Maya yesterday was watching her again. She had become a silent mystery. Some whispered, "She doesn't even look scared." Others shook their heads. But for Maya, this was just another lunch break. Jake was not one to let a challenge pass by. He walked toward her table slowly, smirking, as if he had all the time in the world. His friends trailed behind him, whispering and laughing nervously. Jake had already decided he was going to make her cry, just like he did with every new girl who dared to enter his cafeteria kingdom. Maya's eyes met Jake's. She didn't flinch. Her hands rested on her lunch tray. She chewed her sandwich slowly, looking at him directly. For a moment, Jake's smirk faltered. There was something calm but firm in her gaze. Something that made him pause. "Hey," Jake said loudly, so the nearby students could hear. "New girl, you think you could just sit here, acting like you belong?" He nudged the table with his elbow. Chips scattered across the floor. A hush fell over the students around them. Maya looked down at the spilled chips, then back up at him. She shrugged gently. "It's just lunch," she said softly, almost too quiet to hear. But everyone in the cafeteria felt the power in her voice. There was no fear. There was no anger. Just calm. Jake laughed, but it was forced. He tried to lean closer, tried to intimidate her with his height. "Just lunch? This is my cafeteria. Everyone knows it. And you? You knew. You don't belong here." Maya didn't answer. She just smiled faintly, as if she had already won some invisible game. Students whispered to each other, "Why isn't she scared? Does she know something we don't?" The tension grew. Jake's friends shifted uncomfortably. No one had ever seen Jake hesitate before. And Maya wasn't doing anything special. She was just sitting there. But that stillness, that quiet courage, was louder than words. Jake bent down and tried to grab her tray. He wanted to push her, embarrass her, make her the center of attention in the worst way possible. But Maya's hands moved just in time. She held her tray steady. Her eyes never left his. "Don't touch my lunch," she said calmly. The cafeteria went completely silent. Even the students at other tables stopped eating for a second, watching. Jake had never been told no like that before. His friends exchanged nervous glances. Jake's face tightened. He wanted to yell, to shove, to humiliate her. But something stopped him. Maya slowly got up from her chair. She didn't walk toward him. She just stood there, calm and steady, her shoulders back. Jake's friends were starting to get uncomfortable. Whispers ran through the cafeteria. "She's not scared at all. How is she so calm?" Jake tried again. He bumped into her tray accidentally, or maybe on purpose. Nobody could tell. The sandwich slid off the tray, landing on the floor. Everyone gasped. Some students laughed nervously. Maya didn't react quickly, though. She bent down, picked up her sandwich, and set it back on the tray without saying a word. Jake was confused. This was supposed to be easy. Every other student would have shouted, cried, or pushed back. But Maya didn't. She just stayed quiet, letting him feel the embarrassment instead. He tried one more time. He leaned close, his face inches from hers. "You're going to regret this," he muttered. But Maya stayed silent. She didn't flinch. She didn't look away. She just met his gaze, calm and unbroken. Suddenly, Maya's phone rang. She took it out, glanced at the screen, and smiled slightly. She answered calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Jake stepped back, annoyed. Her confidence, her calmness, and the fact that she didn't fight or scream, everything about her made him unsure. The bell rang again, signaling the end of lunch. Students quickly went back to their classes, whispering and glancing at Maya. Jake walked away, muttering angrily, but his smirk was gone. For the first time, he wasn't sure if he had the upper hand. Maya sat down, quietly finishing her lunch, as if nothing had happened. But she knew something important. She had survived her first encounter, and she had already made an impression. And in Jefferson High, making an impression could change everything. Everyone in the cafeteria would remember her first day. Some with fear, some with curiosity, but everyone would remember. And Maya? She was ready for what would come next. The storm was just beginning, and she was standing right in the middle of it. The next day, Jefferson High felt different. The cafeteria buzzed with students, but there was an undercurrent of whispers. Everyone remembered what had happened yesterday. Maya, the new girl, had not only survived Jake's first attempt to intimidate her, but she had done it with calm confidence. And now, Jake was not going to let it go. Maya walked into the cafeteria carrying her backpack, her head held high. She noticed students glancing at her, some nodding slightly, some whispering. She didn't care. She was focused. Lunch was just another part of the day, and she knew she had to be careful. Jake, however, had spent the entire morning plotting. He didn't plan to embarrass her quietly this time. He wanted to make a statement. He wanted to show everyone that no one, not even the new girl, could stand up to him. As soon as Maya sat down at her usual table, Jake and his friends approached. His expression was darker than yesterday, a mixture of anger and disbelief. He leaned against a nearby table, close enough for her to notice. His friends hovered behind him, unsure if this time things would go smoothly. Jake's voice cut through the cafeteria noise. So, you think you can just sit here like you own the place? Yesterday was a fluke. Today, you're going to regret it. His words carried a dangerous edge. The students nearby went silent. Everyone felt the tension. Maya looked up at him. Her hands rested calmly on her tray. She didn't flinch, didn't raise her voice, didn't even look scared. I just want to eat my lunch, she said softly, clearly. Her calmness made Jake's anger grow. He wasn't used to resistance like this. Usually, fear made things easy. Jake stepped closer. He wanted to intimidate her physically this time. You don't belong here, he said, his voice low, threatening. One wrong move, and he stopped mid-sentence, noticing how steady her gaze was. It was almost as if she was challenging him silently. Maya didn't answer. She just picked up her sandwich and took a slow bite, making it clear that she wasn't going to react the way he expected. Jake's friends whispered among themselves, nervous now. They had never seen him confused, but Maya was changing that. Jake's anger simmered. He reached for her arm, thinking he could force her into submission. The cafeteria went quiet. Some students held their breath, anticipating a fight. But Maya moved with surprising speed. She pulled her arm back, just in time, keeping her tray and herself safe. Careful, Maya said softly, her voice calm but firm. I don't like it when people touch me without asking. Her words were simple, but the power behind them made the cafeteria feel electric. Students whispered, amazed. Jake froze. Nobody had ever spoken to him like that. He looked around at his friends, who avoided his eyes, unsure how to react. The confidence in Maya's voice made him hesitate, even for a second, and that second was dangerous. Suddenly, Maya's friend from another table waved at her. Hey, come sit with us, she called. Maya smiled politely, but stayed where she was. She knew moving now might give Jake the satisfaction of feeling like he had won. No, she would stay. She would not let him control her. Jake's expression darkened. He bent closer, lowering his voice so only Maya could hear. You knew here. You don't know the rules, he said. And soon, everyone will see why. Maya leaned back slightly, keeping her composure. I'll follow the rules, she said calmly. But I don't follow people who try to hurt others. Her words weren't loud, but they carried weight. The students around them felt it too. Whispers spread. She's not just brave, she's smart. Jake's friends were uneasy now. They had watched him bully countless students without resistance, but Maya was different. She was unshakable, and the more Jake tried to intimidate her, the more uncertain he became. The bell rang again, signaling the end of lunch. Jake didn't walk away immediately. He stared at Maya, his mind racing. He knew this wasn't over. Maya had survived his first attack, and today she had survived his threat. But he wanted something more dramatic, something that would humiliate her, something that would show everyone that he was still the king of the cafeteria. Maya, meanwhile, finished her lunch calmly, as if nothing had happened. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her quiet confidence had already sent a message. She was strong, she was calm, and she would not be intimidated. Students left the cafeteria talking in low voices, filled with curiosity and amazement. Jake, however, stayed behind for a moment, his anger simmering, plotting his next move. He didn't realize it yet, but Maya was already one step ahead. She wasn't just surviving. She was already changing the balance of power. And this was just the beginning. The cafeteria was buzzing, but there was an electric tension that no one could ignore. Students had barely settled at their tables when Jake spotted Maya. His face was red with anger, his fists clenched. Yesterday had been frustrating. Today, he wanted more. He wanted to show everyone that no one dared to challenge him. Not even the new girl. Maya sat calmly at her usual table, finishing her lunch slowly. Her backpack rested neatly by her side. She was aware of Jake's stare, but she didn't flinch. She had learned long ago that staying calm was often the best defense. Her eyes scanned the room, not out of fear, but to observe. Jake's friends whispered nervously, unsure how far he would go. He had promised them he would handle the new girl. But none of them expected this level of calm from her. It made him impatient. "Hey, new girl," Jake shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. All heads turned. He walked directly toward Maya, a cruel smirk on his face. "I warned you yesterday. Today, you won't get away so easily." Maya didn't look up immediately. She took a deliberate bite of her sandwich, savoring it slowly. It was a small gesture, but it was almost a challenge. Jake's patience snapped. He reached for her arm, intending to twist it and assert his dominance in front of the cafeteria. The moment his fingers touched her arm, time seemed to slow. Maya's reflexes were sharp. She twisted her body, pulling her arm away just in time. The force Jake expected to dominate her met only air. The cafeteria gasped collectively. A tray clattered on a nearby table. Students froze, some holding their hands to their mouths. "You should be more careful," Maya said softly, her voice calm but firm. Her eyes were locked on Jake, steady and unafraid. The simplicity of her words was striking, but the strength behind them was undeniable. Jake's face turned red. His smirk faltered. He couldn't believe how effortlessly she avoided his grab. His friends exchanged nervous glances. Whispers spread like wildfire. Did she just dodge him? How? Jake lunged again, more aggressively this time. He wanted to make it clear that resistance would not be tolerated. He grabbed her arm, tried to twist it with force. But Maya was ready. She stepped back with agility, keeping her balance and avoiding his hold entirely. Students began murmuring excitedly, leaning forward to watch the scene unfold. Some had seen bullies in action before, but this was different. Maya wasn't fighting angrily. She was precise, calm, and confident. Each move she made seemed deliberate, calculated even. Jake tried one more time. His hand shot toward her shoulder, aiming to push her to the ground. But Maya's instincts were fast. She sidestepped him gracefully, and the small movement caused him to stumble forward. The cafeteria erupted in gasps. Jake's friend shouted for him to stop, but he was too focused. The next moment was almost cinematic. Jake tripped over a chair he hadn't noticed. His arms flailed. The tray he had knocked over yesterday tipped again, scattering crumbs and a spilled drink across the floor. And then it happened. Jake hit the linoleum with a loud thud, landing hard on his side. Pain shot through his arm. He clutched it instinctively and whimpered. For a moment, the cafeteria fell completely silent. The loudest sound was Jake's shallow breathing. Maya didn't move toward him. She didn't gloat. She simply adjusted her backpack, sat down slowly, and continued eating her lunch as if nothing had happened. But her eyes scanned the room, confident, calm, and aware. She had defended herself without violence, without anger, simply with skill and composure. Students stared in awe. Whispers grew louder. "Did you see that?" She didn't even yell. "How did she do that?" Some were inspired, some were shocked, but everyone was captivated. Maya had shown that strength didn't always come from anger. It could come from calm intelligence and timing. Jake groaned on the floor, holding his arm. His friends helped him sit up, but there was no smirk this time. He was embarrassed, frustrated, and confused. The new girl, Maya, had not only defended herself, but had done it in a way that made him question everything he thought he knew about bullying. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch. Students quickly returned to class, whispering about the incredible scene they had just witnessed. Jake limped away, muttering under his breath, while Maya calmly packed her tray. She didn't need to prove anything. Her presence alone had shifted the balance of power in the cafeteria. By the time Maya left the cafeteria, everyone knew one thing. She was not someone to mess with. And for Jake, this was the first day he realized that being a bully wasn't always enough. Sometimes confidence, calmness, and quick thinking could defeat even the most aggressive opponent. And the storm that was Maya at Jefferson High was just beginning. The cafeteria was buzzing, but there was a new energy in the air. Students were talking quietly, glancing at Maya and at Jake, who was still nursing his arm on the floor. Yesterday, they had seen a challenge. Today, they had witnessed something extraordinary. Jake sat there, his face red from embarrassment and pain. His friends hovered around him, unsure whether to laugh nervously or help him up. No one had ever seen him like this, helpless, humiliated, and confused. For a boy who thrived on fear, this was a new and terrifying experience. Maya remained calm, sitting at her table, finishing her lunch as if nothing had happened. But the subtle confidence in her posture spoke louder than words ever could. She didn't need to boast. She didn't need to scream victory. Her stillness, her quiet composure, was enough to show everyone that she had already won. Students whispered among themselves. "Did you see that?" One girl said. "Jake, he actually fell." Another boy added, "And she didn't even touch him much. Just clever moves." There was awe in their voices. Maya had turned a potential disaster into a display of control and intelligence. Jake groaned, holding his arm, trying to regain some dignity. He had come in thinking this would be easy. He had planned to embarrass her publicly, make her cry, and restore his cafeteria dominance. Instead, he was on the floor, crying quietly, his friends looking on in disbelief. "Get up, Jake," one of his friends whispered. "You can't just lie there." But Jake couldn't move yet. Something about Maya's calm, steady gaze had shaken him. He had underestimated her. He had misjudged her strength, both physical and mental. Maya looked up from her sandwich. Her eyes scanned the cafeteria, noting the stares and whispers. She didn't smile cruelly. She didn't gloat. She just nodded politely to a friend across the room who had been watching quietly. That small gesture, so simple and unassuming, was enough to show that Maya had handled the situation with grace. The cafeteria teacher finally arrived, hurrying over after hearing the commotion. "Jake, are you okay?" she asked, concerned. Jake's friends explained quickly what had happened. The teacher looked from Jake to Maya, raising her eyebrows. "Maya, did you hurt him?" she asked cautiously. Maya shook her head. "No, ma'am. He tripped," she said simply. Her voice was calm, respectful, and confident. The teacher nodded slowly, impressed by her honesty. "Good," she said, then helped Jake up. "Let's get you checked out in the nurse's office." Jake's pride was shattered. He limped toward the nurse, his head low, avoiding eye contact with the cafeteria. For the first time, he felt small. His friends followed quietly, unsure of what to say. Meanwhile, Maya returned to her lunch, finishing quietly, unaffected by the attention. The students in the cafeteria began whispering more excitedly. Some admired her bravery. Some were shocked by the sudden reversal of power. One student muttered, "She didn't even scream, didn't even shout, and he's crying." Another added, "I think she just taught everyone a lesson." Maya's calmness had done more than protect her. It had changed how students saw the rules of the cafeteria. Jake had ruled through fear. Maya had ruled through calm intelligence and courage. And in just a few minutes, the balance had shifted. The lunch period ended, and students left the cafeteria buzzing with stories. Maya packed up her tray slowly, glancing around. Some students smiled at her, nodding as if to say, "We saw what you did." Others whispered, "I hope I can be that calm if someone tries to bully me." Jake's humiliation was complete, but the real shock was not just his fall. It was the realization that confidence and composure could outweigh brute force. Maya didn't just survive the attack. She had dominated the moment without raising her voice, without a single angry shout. That was the lesson everyone remembered. By the time Maya left the cafeteria, Jake had disappeared toward the nurse's office, his friends trailing silently. The whispers and looks of awe followed her out the door. Students knew that this new girl was not ordinary. She was clever, strong, and unafraid. And deep down, Jake knew something he had never admitted before. He had been outsmarted. The shock of the day would linger for a long time. Not just in Jake, but in every student who had witnessed it. Maya had arrived at Jefferson High as the new girl, but by the end of lunch, she had left an unforgettable mark. It wasn't just about surviving the bully. It was about showing everyone that strength could be quiet, that courage didn't always have to shout, and that sometimes the smartest move was the one that left others stunned, confused, and, most importantly, respectful. Maya smiled faintly as she walked out of the cafeteria. She didn't need the applause. She didn't need the attention. The lesson had been made. The balance had shifted. And for the first time, the cafeteria had learned that sometimes the quiet ones were the strongest. The next day, Jefferson High felt different. Students walked through the halls whispering, glancing at Maya as she passed by. Some nodded respectfully, while others stared with curiosity. News of what had happened in the cafeteria spread fast. Maya, the new girl who had faced Jake, was no longer just the quiet newcomer. She was the girl who had changed the rules. Maya entered the cafeteria, carrying her tray. She noticed the curious glances immediately, but she didn't look nervous. Her shoulders were straight, her head held high. Some students smiled, others whispered, but Maya didn't react. She had no need for attention. She simply wanted to eat her lunch in peace, and for once, the cafeteria seemed to respect that. Jake, on the other hand, stayed at his usual table, nursing his bruised arm. His friends had warned him not to humiliate himself further, but pride made him linger. He watched Maya from across the room, unsure of what to do next. He had expected fear, maybe tears, maybe even an apology. Instead, he saw calm confidence, and that was more unsettling than anything he had ever faced. Students moved around carefully. Some who had been allies of Jake were hesitant now. They whispered among themselves, "She's not scared. She's smart. She actually made him cry." Others who had avoided Maya before started thinking differently. Maybe she wasn't just new. Maybe she was someone to respect. The cafeteria teacher walked in, noticing the tension. "Everyone, take your seats," she said, trying to calm the buzz. But the students were still talking quietly, sharing what they had seen the day before and speculating what might happen today. Maya sat at her usual table, quietly arranging her tray. Jake's friends tried to laugh it off, but even their laughs sounded hollow. Jake's pride had been shattered, and the dynamic in the cafeteria had shifted. For the first time, students saw that being loud or aggressive didn't always make someone strong. Calmness, confidence, and intelligence mattered more, and Maya embodied all three. A few students from other tables approached Maya cautiously. "Hey, can we sit with you?" one asked nervously. Maya nodded politely, her smile small but welcoming. She didn't need to assert dominance. Her presence alone invited respect. Slowly, more students began joining her table. By the end of lunch, Maya wasn't alone anymore. She had allies, friends who admired her courage, and even students who had been too afraid to speak to her before now felt safe. Jake watched from across the room, simmering with anger and embarrassment. He had been humiliated in front of the whole cafeteria, and his usual control over students had slipped away. For the first time, he realized that bullying wasn't the only way to be powerful. And for the first time, he didn't know how to respond. Meanwhile, the other students began whispering lessons to each other. "She didn't fight him with anger," one said. "She didn't scream or cry. She just stayed calm and smart." Another added, "I think she changed the whole cafeteria today." The words spread like wildfire, creating a ripple of respect and curiosity throughout the school. Maya finished her lunch quietly, aware of the glances but not distracted by them. She packed her tray carefully, cleaned up after herself, and walked out of the cafeteria with her friends. Her calmness, her confidence, and her ability to face Jake without fear had made an impression on everyone. Even Jake's friends were beginning to see the shift. They whispered to each other, realizing that things had changed. Jake's control had weakened, and Maya's quiet strength had left a mark that would last much longer than anyone expected. In the hallways, students continued talking. Some shared stories from the previous days, emphasizing how Maya had handled the bully. Some admired her courage. Others started thinking about how they could handle bullies in their own lives. Maya had shown them that being strong didn't mean being loud or aggressive. Strength could be quiet, smart, and deliberate. By the end of the day, Jake had retreated to his usual group, nursing his bruised arm and wounded pride. Maya, on the other hand, walked through the school with a sense of quiet triumph. She had faced the storm, and the storm had changed course. And the truth was clear to everyone. Maya had arrived as the new girl, but she was leaving a lasting impression. The cafeteria, the hallways, and even the students who had once been intimidated by Jake now viewed her differently. She wasn't just surviving. She was quietly changing the school, one calm, confident action at a time. The aftermath of that lunch wasn't just about humiliation or fear. It was about respect, strategy, and the power of staying composed under pressure. Maya had taught the school something they would never forget. Courage doesn't always scream. Sometimes it walks quietly, thinks clearly, and changes everything without raising its voice. As Maya left school that day, students continued to whisper her name, still amazed at what they had witnessed. And Jake, he realized, slowly and painfully, that today the new girl had won. Not with anger, not with force, but with intelligence, patience, and calm confidence. The following week at Jefferson High was different. The cafeteria, once a place of chaos and fear, had a new energy in the air. Students walked through the doors with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Whispers about Maya, the new girl who had faced Jake, were everywhere. Her calm confidence had left a lasting impression. She hadn't just survived. She had changed the dynamics of the school. Maya entered the cafeteria, carrying her tray. Heads turned, and whispers rippled through the room. Some students nodded politely. Some smiled, quietly impressed by the way she had handled the bully. Others watched, curious to see if she would act differently today. But Maya didn't look nervous or proud. She simply walked to her usual table, her steps steady and calm. Jake sat at his table, quietly eating, his friends around him whispering nervously. The boy who had once ruled the cafeteria with fear now avoided eye contact with Maya. His smirk had faded, replaced by a mixture of frustration and awe. For the first time, he realized that power wasn't about intimidation. Maya had shown that strength could be quiet, intelligent, and deliberate. As Maya sat down, a group of students approached her. "Can we sit with you?" one asked hesitantly. Maya nodded, smiling softly. She didn't say anything boastful or proud. Her calm acceptance made the students feel comfortable. Slowly, her table filled with friends, some who had been shy, others who had been too afraid to speak up before. The cafeteria teacher observed from across the room. She had watched Maya handle Jake's bullying and was impressed by her composure. "It's amazing how one student can change the energy of the entire room," she thought quietly. Maya didn't need adult praise. Her quiet confidence had already taught the students more than any lecture could. Jake watched from his table, his pride still bruised. He had tried to assert dominance, but Maya had outsmarted him without raising her voice or retaliating aggressively. He realized something important. Sometimes, fear isn't enough to control people. Respect is earned through actions, calmness, and intelligence. And Maya had earned it effortlessly. Throughout the day, students whispered about Maya's bravery. Some shared stories with friends, how she had dodged Jake's attempts, how she had remained calm under pressure, and how she had turned the cafeteria into a place where fear no longer ruled. Maya had become a symbol of courage, not loud, not aggressive, but quiet and powerful. Even teachers noticed the change. Students who had once been afraid to stand up for themselves now seemed more confident. Some who had relied on intimidation to get their way were hesitant. Maya had not only defended herself, but had inspired others to think differently. The lesson was clear. Strength doesn't always come from force. Sometimes it comes from composure, intelligence, and courage. By the end of the day, The students had accepted a new reality. Jake still existed, but his control had weakened. He wasn't humiliated publicly anymore, but he had learned a private lesson in respect and strategy. Maya, on the other hand, had quietly earned the admiration of her peers. She had walked into a new school and, without shouting or showing anger, had changed the rules of the cafeteria. As she walked out of school, Maya felt a sense of quiet triumph. She hadn't sought recognition. She hadn't needed to boast. The respect she had earned was real, earned through intelligence, bravery, and composure. She had faced a bully, navigated a challenge, and transformed her new environment without chaos or drama. Students continued to whisper about her throughout the halls, recounting every detail of the encounter with awe. Some had even started thinking about how they could handle bullies in their own lives. Maya had shown them a new way, calm, intelligent, and confident. Her impact was not just temporary. It had left a lasting impression on the school's culture. Even Jake, now walking beside his friends after school, realized that things would never be the same. The new girl had shifted the balance. She had shown strength that didn't need loud words or forceful actions. He didn't understand it fully, but he couldn't deny it. Maya had changed the school, and he was a witness to it. Maya left the school grounds quietly, her backpack on her shoulder, a faint smile on her lips. She didn't need applause because she had already made a difference. The storm she had faced, the bully, the whispers, the challenge, was over, but the lesson she had taught remained. Courage didn't need to scream. Confidence didn't need to shout. True strength was quiet, smart, and unshakable. And so, the new girl had arrived at Jefferson High, faced her first challenge, and left a lasting mark. She had not only survived, but had quietly changed the environment around her. Students would remember her for years to come, not just for her bravery, but for the way she handled herself with calm, intelligence, and confidence. Maya had walked into the school as a newcomer. She left, not just as a student, but as a symbol of courage and quiet strength. And Jefferson High would never be the same again.